A new book destined to be a New York Times bestseller, Treason, former Speaker of the House, Fox News contributor Newt Gingrich. Take a look. And joining us now, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich is with us. So yesterday we've got the video and we got the connections where the money comes from the campaign. It goes to the DNC, it goes to the Democracy Project, and it goes right to these dark arts political operatives that are fomenting, basically violence at Trump events and a false narrative. Now, you watch the tape today, and here they are plainly saying and orchestrating voter fraud on a massive level. What's your reaction to it?
Well, first of all, we also now have actual checks cut by the campaign to one of the operatives. So I have a very simple first question. Where is the FBI? Why is the FBI not investigating this? If you have a deliberate, willful effort to foment violence, to break up a presidential campaign, to intimidate voters, where's the Federal Bureau of Investigation? I know Comey's in the tank for Hillary, but he has some obligation to enforce the law, and the FBI should be opening up an investigation of these people right now, including an investigation of the people at the Clinton campaign who were paying these people.
Well, let's go through the money where they actually explain it in their own words. It says the campaign pays the DNC pays Democracy Partners pays the Foval Group, and they go out and execute either the intimidation, the violence, or the voter fraud. So I don't even know where to begin here. If Comey hasn't done anything, they're talking about Congress investigating before the election, but you and I both know that Congress is not going to get that job done.
Look, I think that Speaker Ryan and Majority Leader McConnell should both, in a direct letter to Comey and to the Attorney General, insist that the FBI now, immediately before the election, investigate this. This is intimidation, which is against federal law. It is a violation of federal election law. It is a level of collusion between the campaign, the Democratic National Committee, these outside groups. And some of it is clearly for the purpose of engaging in intimidation against rallies and against political activities. Now, it's amazing how fast the Obama administration could get FBI agents to a variety of places that fit their agenda, and how impossible it is to get them to simply enforce the law. But the first demand here should be, this is not about politics. This is not about you and me talking. This is about a fundamental threat to our democracy. And the Federal Bureau of Investigation has an absolute obligation to open up by tomorrow. They should be doing it tomorrow. People should be nagging them tomorrow morning. Where are your agents? When are they going in the field? Who are they going to investigate?
I'd like to know, what did Hillary know and when she know it? What did the DNC know and when did they know it? And what did they know about the payments and what was being done? We've got collusion on a lot of levels here. I mean, you have Hillary Clinton on the email server scandal. She was tipped off by the State Department, tipped off by the Justice Department. We now know that emails were sent back and forth between Hillary and Obama, and we now know Obama lied when he said, "Oh, I learned about it just like you. I learned about it from the press." Well, he didn't learn about it from the press because he was sending emails himself. And then you've got Podesta and other Clinton operatives talking about not sending what was a subpoenaed email between the POTUS, the president, and Secretary Clinton. And I'm thinking, so you got collusion not only in the email scandal, now you're talking about collusion here.
Look, this is like a bad update of The Godfather, in which Hillary Clinton is playing the Marlon Brando role. I mean, every time you turn around, this is a conspiracy of crime carried out by a wide range of people who seem to be absolutely oblivious to the law. I mean, they don't even think about the fact they're breaking the law because it doesn't matter to them. And I suspect in the back of their heads, they all assume in the end that Barack Obama will pardon them if anything actually comes down.
On the tape yesterday, Foval actually goes into how the operation is set up. Now, this is beyond the money that I just described as it's passed back and forth, but they set it up to allow the DNC and the Clinton campaign, in his words, not mine, plausible deniability in the event that the true nature of the deliberate violence is discovered. The thing that we have to watch is to make sure there's a double blind between the actual campaign, the actual DNC, and what we're doing. The double blind is there so they can have plausible deniability that they heard anything about it. Isn't that an admission that they know about it and they're just protecting them in case they get caught?
Of course. look, a conspiracy to avoid people knowing that there's a conspiracy is still a conspiracy. What this guy is describing to you, and what the flow of money seems to be describing, is that they had a willful and deliberate effort to set out to violate the law, to intimidate American voters, and to do so on behalf of a campaign which was funneling money to them. Now, I don't care how many linkage points there are. If it turns out the campaign was funneling the money and people clearly understood what they were doing. I mean, you know the campaign was happy the day that there was so much threat of violence that Trump had to abandon his rally in the south side of Chicago.
Well,
and it's impossible
Hillary
for me to
actually made a
believe
statement
that
about
they didn't
it.
know that.
Yeah, and then Hillary makes
So
a
it's
statement
clear, yeah.
condemning the violence that her operatives organized, orchestrated, and made happen. And basically everything she was saying about Trump, she was the one that was guilty of. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back. We'll continue. Go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, remember, she is the person who said you have to have a public face and a private face, and the public face felt sad while the private face did it.